Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 60 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. For over 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution. Yep, showing the world that at 60, 70, and beyond, some of us are a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And today's We Can Do It Women expert interview features none other than Barbara Greenspan Shaiman from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Barbara, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Deborah. I'm so excited to be here with you and your audience today.
Well, we are absolutely privileged to have a woman of your stature with us, and I want to get right to it so that there's ample time for us to be in conversation. Just to give our audience a little background, Barbara Greenspan Shaiman, I'm sorry.
Shaman. I'm not a shaman. I'm just a
Uh-huh.
shaman.
Well, I think you probably will qualify as a shaman in many respects. Shaman, you're a noted educator, businesswoman, social entrepreneur, and motivational speaker, of course, best known for founding a nonprofit organization called Champions of Caring in 1995. We're going to get to that. Through your organization, Champions of Caring, you empower more than 10,000 youth in Philadelphia and South Africa to become leaders in public service and active, engaged citizens, focusing on mentoring young people to create positive social change in their communities. And where was that all rooted? Barbara is the daughter of Holocaust survivors. Yes, she is. Her mom was the sole survivor of a family of 65 people, and her dad worked for Oskar Schindler, whose story was the basis for the film Schindler's List. I just got chills all over my entire body. So, talk to us, Barbara, as to how this family history has been so monumental in shaping who you are, how you view the world and other people, because what a legacy you are leaving in this ministry that you are about. Talk to us.
Well, thank you, Deborah, for your very kind introduction. Being
Indeed.
the daughter of survivors really shaped and molded my life. I was raised by a mother who was the sole survivor of a family of 65 people. And yet she taught me that even in her darkest moments in the Auschwitz concentration camp, and then she was at Stutthof, Theresienstadt, other horrific places, I visited them all. And it's extraordinary what people can do to other people. It's unfathomable. But my
Mm.
mother told me that in her darkest moments, she would dream about getting out of there, creating a new life, having a family, first getting married, and really being able to make it a better world. And she would always say to me, you have to be proactive. You have to really rise to the occasion. And I don't know if your viewers have read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Of course,
That
yes.
book touched, I read it when I was a student at Hunter College in New York in the 60s. And I thought, my mother used to say this, that in your darkest moments, to be able to get through such a horrific period, dream about possibilities, dream that there could be a better world, that there can still be meaning, there can still be purpose. And the way she raised me and my brother Josh really taught us that no matter what happens, I'm showing you what I have on my desk. This was my mother's expression. Here comes the sun. She used to
Wow.
say to me, the sun came out for me even after Auschwitz. It will always come out for you, no matter what happens to you in life. You
Mm.
will survive and you will thrive. But be proactive, stand up, speak out. That's your moral obligation and responsibility. So to be raised by a woman who, at the age of 15,
I was going to say, how old was she? Yeah.
it started at 15. My mother's parents went to find a hiding place because they heard the rumors that horrible things were happening to Jews, to gypsies, to handicapped people, and people that were disliked, and
Homosexuals. Homosexuals.
homosexuals. Yeah, absolutely. And so my mother was just with her sister and two brothers. and they came knocking at the door. She lived in Lodz, Poland. And you're not going to believe this, Deborah. You know what my mother took to the ghetto? She didn't know where she was going. A plant. She was afraid who would water the plant. Think about the humanity of a 15-year-old girl worrying about her plant. And then just threw a few things into a bag. She had no idea where she was going, what was going to happen, but her humanity shone throughout this. So here she comes to the Lodz ghetto, which was an area in Lodz, Poland that was designated for these undesirables by Hitler's definition to live. There was limited food. There was not clean water. There was typhus. There was disease. People were dying. People were getting deported. What did my mother do? Every morning, she went and rounded up young children, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and she would sit with them and sing songs and tell stories and make up games. Because she said to me, they did not deserve this. And I wanted to make their life better. And I'll tell you how this goes full circle. My mother died of dementia 15 years ago. One of the last things she said to me was, if I die, who's going to take care of the children? And I knew that she was talking about those children in the Lodz ghetto. And I squeezed her hand and I said, Mom, I will always take care of those children. And it was such a pivotal moment for both of us
Oh my
because
God.
we both understood that this is what the moral teachings that I was raised with, and that she could go peaceably because I was going to take on this mission for her. And I broke down hysterically. I had to call, it was Jewish Family Service who was bringing us all these aids. And I said, I need help because I was so broken up that in her last moments, she was thinking about the kids in the Lodz ghetto and who was going to take care of them. And, they reassured me that my mother with her dementia did not remember that, for the moment she felt this angst and anguish, but it would pass. But I just thought, what an extraordinary woman that even in her last days, this was so front and center in her mind. And, she taught me about humanity. This is a woman who never went to school beyond the age of 15, who was the smartest, most articulate person I ever met, who gave speeches in front of thousands, who very early on, we came to New York and people were saying to us, I was born in Germany in
Okay.
1948 in Regensburg, Germany. And when we came to America, people were saying to my mother and father, don't talk about the Holocaust. It's not a smart idea. Leave it alone. Act as if it never happened and change that girl's name. My given name was Bella. I was named in the Jewish tradition, you're named after someone who died in the family. And I was named after my mother's mother, Bella. And someone said to my mother, you can't let that girl have that name. She will be a greenhorn, an immigrant for the rest of her life. And my mother said, well, I don't want that to happen to her. What should I do? But it has to start with a B, the name, because it's named after my mother. And they said, you know what's a very popular name? Barbara. Name her Barbara. But I think you and your viewers will laugh. My mother only called me Barbara when she was mad at me. She always called me Bella. And in my head, I am Bella.
Yes,
But
of
I
course.
think of this story because she thought she was doing the best for me by, making me more Americanized, not an immigrant. And, when I see the travail of immigrants right now in this country, it brings all of this up for me because I was blessed to be an immigrant. I was blessed to come to this country, to have the opportunities of, going to college, going to graduate school, starting careers, having a family. This is the greatest country in the world. And as an immigrant, I'm so grateful that we were brought here by Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, HIAS, and that
Yes.
I was given a wonderful education and empowered to do what I've been able to do. But I really think a lot about my mother when I give speeches like this. And my
Sure.
father was amazing. My father was from Krakow, Poland, and he worked for Oskar Schindler. If you saw the film Schindler's
Oh,
List.
many times. I saw it probably 3 times, and it was, oh my heart, it was horrible. And I was on the other side of a screen. So I had such empathy. So Oscar was an amazing man, at least that which was depicted in the film. And talk to us about your dad's relationship with him.
Well, let me tell you that if you saw the movie, the movie's in black and white,
Yes, of
but
course.
there's one scene with a little girl and she's wearing a red coat. That's the only scene that Spielberg did in color. Why? Because Schindler looks out of the window and he sees they're killing children. They're rounding up these children. And bam, something happens to Schindler that he, who was really only interested in making a lot of money, frankly, he was a womanizer, he drank a lot, he didn't have the greatest virtues. But I'm alive because of Oskar Schindler. So are a few thousand other people.
Absolutely.
So my father was from Krakow, Poland, and he was very lucky that he was able to work at Schindler's factory, which was called Emalia. And he would go there with his father every day. They were in Plaszow in this ghetto in Krakow, but every day he would go to work for Schindler. And because of that, he had food, he had clothing, he was really taken care of.
Of
But
course.
however, when Schindler put together his famous list, my father was not on the list. And my father went to Schindler. He would tell me the stories and say, "Why are my grandfather and father, why are they weren't put on the list?" Instead, my father was sent on the death march. Now, Poland in the winter is very, very cold, and they were wearing this like PJ kind of garbs, like prison
Oh,
garb. And
right, right.
my father's cousin Henry was had typhus, and my father carried his cousin through the snow because he was afraid if Henry fell in the snow, he would not survive.
You would die.
And my father then was taken to the Theresienstadt concentration camp outside of Prague. If you recall, this was the camp that the Red Cross came to and said everything was wonderful. They saw Brundabar, an opera that was put together there. But the truth is, I have been to Theresienstadt, and if you walk around, you'll see a crematorium there. But the Red Cross somehow did not see this crematorium and said it was fine. Everything was just fine. Well, it wasn't.
It
My
was.
father met my mother. They fell in love and they were liberated by the Russians in May of 1945. They then went back together to Lodz, Poland, where my mother found no one out of 65 people left. They then went to Krakow, and my father miraculously found his mother, my grandmother Golda, and his brother Leon and his cousin Henry.
Oh, wow.
And I have to tell you a story because I'm actually making a movie. I don't know if you
Yes.
see my ring. My
Yes.
so let me go to my grandmother for a moment. My grandmother Golda was extraordinary. She was an entrepreneur in the 1900s. She had multiple businesses. She was very smart, very savvy, and she decided to go into the jewelry business. And she saw pictures of corals and
Oh,
mosaics. And she said, "You know what? If I could get this kind of jewelry from Italy and bring it to Poland, this could be a very lucrative business." She got a tutor. Italian was her sixth language.
yes.
She learned Italian. She took the train alone from Krakow to Livorno, met up with a woman, Signora Maffei, and they went into business together. And my grandmother purchased this coral ring,
Oh,
amongst many other things, cameos, necklaces, but this ring was her favorite ring. And when my grandmother heard the rumblings of what was going on, they didn't know what was happening, these concentration camps, they didn't know what it meant. She got very nervous and she gave this ring and her Sabbath candlesticks to a Polish man who worked in her business and said to him, "Bad things are happening to my people. Please keep these two very important possessions for me. And if I'm lucky enough to survive, I'll come and retrieve them." And so when they got to Krakow, and my grandmother saw her son and another son who had survived and then met my mother, she said, "Oh my God, I have a ring for Carola. I have a ring." So you're not going to believe this, Deborah. They went and found the man that she had
oh,
given these
wow.
things to, and he denied having it. This
Oh
is
my
after
gosh.
millions of people had been slaughtered. This is after all of these horrific events beyond comprehension. And he did not want to give her the ring. But my grandmother was so astute. She went and got the police. Once he saw the police, his attitude changed, and the ring and the Sabbath candlesticks miraculously appeared. So this became my mother's engagement ring. For
Oh,
my 50th birthday, my mother looks at me and said, I want to show you this ring. Again, you see it on me all the time, but it's the most important possession I have because it told me that I could have a new life, that I had a rebirth. I was going to get married. I was going to have children. I was going to have a whole new beginning and opportunity to live the life that was meaningful and important and filled with purpose and joy. She
yes.
said, I now want you to wear this ring. And she put it on my hand and she said, every time you look at this ring, I want you to think about, and the word she used was being a mensch. Mensch is
Yes,
a
of course,
Yiddish
of
word
course.
that
Oh,
means a good, kind-hearted person. She says, I want you to remember that even in bad times, you stand up, you speak out, you make a difference with your life. And then she said, this will be full circle and you'll give it to your daughter and your daughter will give it to her daughter. But this is the most important lesson I can teach you. Do good, stand up, speak out. So I'm currently creating a documentary and the name of
yes.
it is The Coral Ring Legacy.
Oh, I've read about it and we're eager to see it released. And you're saying it's September this year, it's going to be released?
Yep. I'm very excited. We have filmed in Osaka, Punki, Finland, and New Orleans, and Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. It was a labor of love. And I'll tell you how that happened. Well, let me just share that in 1989, my mother, who said she would never go back to Poland, ever, ever. She didn't want us to go anywhere near it. The memories were horrific. We were at an international gathering of Holocaust survivors in Philadelphia. And we're walking, if you can picture this, from the hotel down to the Liberty Bell, a few thousand Holocaust survivors. It was beyond extraordinary.
Oh,
And my mother turns to me, my brother, and my father and says, you know what? I want to go back. And I want you, she said to my brother, Josh, bring your camera and film dad and me telling our story. This is before Steven Spielberg did the Shoah Foundation, where he has over 50,000 tapes of Holocaust survivors. And my brother's a physician, and he said, Mom, this is a very bad idea. This is too traumatic. And she goes, Nope, I made up my mind. And Deborah, my mother was a fire. She was unbelievable. She calls up a bunch of friends, and it turns out 40 Holocaust survivors and their children joined us on this trip.
oh my heart.
But I have to tell you that this trip changed my life forever.
Of
At
course.
the time, I was very fortunate to be running a national executive search firm. This is 1989,
Okay.
recruiting senior level healthcare executives. I never knew that I, as a woman, was able to do this. It wasn't I was told at Hunter College. I was told you could be a teacher, a nurse, a secretary, or get married and don't do any of the above.
Yeah.
So for me to have the privilege of running this national firm was huge. But so I have to share what happened to me in Auschwitz that changed my life forever. My mother used to compulsively brush her teeth. She could brush her teeth 5, 6, 7 times a day. We were always late for everything we had to go to, and we'd scream, Mom, what's the matter? What do you have to brush your teeth for? And she'd go, just leave me alone. Never explained it. We're standing at the gates of Auschwitz. My mother turns to me and says, I was 19 years old. I was on the last transport out of the large ghetto. I had lost everyone dear to me, but I snuck a toothbrush into my dress. I didn't have clean water. I didn't have toothpaste, but the feel of the bristles on my teeth made me feel human. It was the last vestige of my humanity. She says, Look, they took my toothbrush away from me. Well, Deborah, I I can't even tell you how I felt when I heard this story. It was so extraordinary, so devastating that my mother at 19 had a toothbrush. That was it. And that was taken from her.
It was taken.
I had such a visceral reaction to this that I had to excuse myself. My mother was with my father, my brother, and these 40 other survivors, so I knew she would be okay. And I ran around the property there at Auschwitz and I was sobbing. I was hysterical. I felt such enormous guilt that I actually used to make fun of her. Come on, mom, brushing your teeth again. Why? What do you need to do this for? And there were a group of teenage German boys clowning around and laughing. Maybe it was because of the trauma of seeing the place. You know, sometimes people react in different ways, so I don't want to judge them. But I went over to them and I said in German, "Do you understand where you are? This is a killing place." And they just started laughing more. And Deborah, bam, my life changed forever. I thought to myself, I need to go back to Philadelphia, work with youth. I had a master's in education, and teach them to become social activists. Teach them how to stand up, speak out, create an action plan around a topic that was important to them, give them the skill sets on how to share their message and do, an elevator pitch, if you will, on why
Right.
they're picking their topic and why it's important to them, teach them how to do a budget. And this all kept going in my head. And the name Champions of Caring just popped in my head. And I thought, why do we make such a big fuss only about straight A students, athletes? But what about the kids with the great hearts, the ones that go to the shelter, the ones that just do such good deeds and no one acknowledges them?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to change that. When I came back to Philly, I have to tell you that all of my friends thought I had lost it. The joke was, because I'm a New Yorker, you need to go to Bellevue. You're giving up this career to do, are you kidding me, Barb? Are you crazy? But I knew I had to do this. And I'll share an interesting story. I've been very blessed in my life. One of my very closest friends, Suzanne Wright, was married to Bob Wright, who at the time was the CEO of NBC Universal. And they were very close to me and to my family. And they called me to find out about the trip. And when I shared my epiphany about Champions of Caring, Bob, and I'm so grateful to him, said, NBC Universal will come on board and help you out. And then he said magic to me. Are you ready for this one, Deborah? I'm having a meeting with Steven Spielberg in a few weeks. He's making a film called Schindler's List. And I would like you to bullet out very briefly what the concept is for Champions of Caring. I will not leave it with him, but I will read it to him and discuss it with him. And Deborah, I got my initial funding from Spielberg's Righteous Persons Foundation. And I'm so grateful to Steven Spielberg, to Bob Wright, because you can't do things alone in life.
No, you.
I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And, networking and meeting people, and even, Deborah, you giving me this opportunity to share my message today. We need people to support us because you can have a vision, but if you can't make it happen, you know, so I was very blessed with this. And in 1995, we started Champions of Caring. And it was very important to me that we go into inner city schools, schools with kids from different ethnicities. We went
Yes.
into the private schools. We went into all kinds of high schools
Yes.
because I had a vision. I realized that kids who lived in wealthier areas never go into the poorer districts, and the kids who live in the ghettos and the poor districts never meet kids who go to private schools. I thought, what if I could bring all of them together? So I needed a place. So here's another man who helped me so tremendously. Dr. Konstantin Papadakis was the president of Drexel University.
Oh,
And I was brought to him for a meeting. And when I started telling him my story, he said, Stop right there. And I thought, oh my God, did I say something wrong? He said to me, my wife, Ileana's family, was from Salonika, Greece, and they hid Jews during the Holocaust. I'm your partner.
oh,
Deborah, I was just beside myself. And he said, What do you need? I said, I need classroom space so that we can run our workshops here. I need some of your professors, maybe if they could come in and teach kids how to give speeches, how to write a budget. I need an auditorium to honor these kids. He said, you have it. And he also gave us over the years $350,000 for tuition for kids who could get into Drexel. So
Oh,
again, when I reflect on all of this, I have to think about these extraordinary people who
hmm.
opened up their hearts, minds, and pocketbooks
Yeah.
to help this happen. And I can't, you know, thank Taki. His nickname was Taki enough for giving me this opportunity to showcase the work that I was doing, to give us a place where the wealthy kids could go to, and the parents thought, oh, that's great. They're going to Drexel University on a Sunday afternoon for 4 hours. And we gave tokens to the inner city kids so they could come. And when I saw the magic that happened when a kid from the ghetto met a kid from the mainline area and they bonded, and the kids would say to me, thank you, Barb. We would have never met these
And
kids.
each other. Right.
Never. And they learned from each other. And it was just beautiful when I look at the footage that's going to be in the documentary and you see the different faces, the ethnicities of who's marching down the aisle to be honored as a champion. It's wonderful. And the other piece that's so important to me is this notion of if we bring generations together,
Here we are.
old and young,
Here we are.
this intergenerational experience is so powerful. And so Champions of Caring's mission initially was about working with youth. And I love that we did this. And I love that I had the privilege of working with 10,000 kids who used our programs. We had a curriculum in the schools. We honored young people for their outstanding service. But that we had this leadership program called Ambassadors of Caring Leadership
Mhm.
students, and these are the ones that are being filmed for the documentary. They had to come. Some of the students would write essays and tell us what they did to make the world a better place, and we had a panel of jury, that would read the essays, and then we would honor them, and the mayor would come, and the governor would come, and the head of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia would come, and it was really a beautiful event in the main auditorium at Drexel. And the
Correct.
president of Drexel was there. I mean, these kids were never acknowledged for anything, and now they're marching down the aisle to "We are the champions, we are the champions." I
Oh,
should keep my
oh,
day job, but it was extraordinary. And but we had a program for the leadership group, and those are the kids that we're filming for this documentary. Because Deborah, I'm proud to tell you that now they're 40 years old and they're still doing service. And they're teaching this to their children, to their nieces, to their nephews, that the impact, we had a longitudinal study done by Dr. Kim Solano, who's head of the sociology department at Temple. And it showed that what they learned is still resonating with them, that they love the idea of meeting young people from different backgrounds because they
yes.
would have never had that opportunity. They loved knowing that they had the skill set to impact powerful social change and that it has become a way of life for them. So I'm just so grateful to all the people who helped for so many years. You can't do this alone.
You cannot.
You
And
cannot do this alone. And I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, but networking and reaching out and having people help you is so critical to the cause. And it was because of my parents and because of my grandmother. I'll tell you one other story. In 1950s, young girls in New York, where I was, were not be told that they could be anything they wanted to be. They were told you could be a nurse, a secretary, more limited.
yeah.
My grandmother would say to me, don't listen to that. I shared a room with her till I got married, till I was 19. And she would say, this is not true. I was a businesswoman in the 1900s. You
Oh,
can be anything. And, I realized this, and my mother would reinforce this, and my dad also. So I very early realized intergenerational collaboration is
absolutely.
a tremendous force for helping someone learn from another generation. And so now I've really switched our mission to include people of all generations because I know I'm very bad at technology. It's a miracle I'm on your call today that I pushed all the right buttons and I got here. But I have college kids from Temple University who help me, who,
Sure.
we have an Instagram account. I know nothing about this, but we've had 7 million views because we put these reels on, and I welcome your audience to like us on our Champions of Caring Instagram account,
All
on
right.
Facebook account, on our LinkedIn account. I mean, this is because these college kids have said, Barb, we need to do this. You give us the material, we'll format it. And I'm so grateful to them. So my vision, Deborah, now is really to engage people of all generations because when we come together, we're more powerful. The older, I'm a baby boomer. The boomer generations and other generations have work experience, history. The younger kids, the college kids have so much knowledge and insight. They're so technologically savvy. We bring
Fantastic.
all of this talent together. We can flip the script on ageism, on everything that is upsetting in our society. I think we can really change the world. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Well, I know we can, especially with efforts like yours and people that have the verve and the grit to bring it together. Obviously, you come from great lineage in terms of strong women in particular, and then of course your dad and your husband Larry, who died in 2009. So he was a good partner with you in this Champions of Caring. Did he involve his efforts as well, or was he doing another business?
Well, he was a lawyer, so he was very, very business with his law practice. But he would listen and advise, and that was it's very helpful. My daughter's a lawyer. She's actually was a prosecutor, a district attorney. Now she's a judge. So
Oh,
and my stepdaughters are both lawyers. So I had a lot of lawyers around me
okay.
because you need a lot of skill sets to make things happen.
And protect yourself is really valuable. Wow.
But, one of the things I've learned, which I want to share with your audience, is about how to deal with loss.
Thank you.
There, my mother taught me that you need to grieve, but then you need to move on and find the meaning and purpose in your life. And I've had some very horrific losses. I lost a stepdaughter, I lost a son, I lost my parents and my husband in a 10-year time frame. And that could have crushed me.
Yes, it
But
could.
I could hear my mother saying, grieve and then move on. Do something in their memory, do something in their name. So when my son Dan died 8 years ago, I
Mm.
decided my son was a brilliant writer and he lived in Israel and wrote for the Jerusalem Post. And he was writing articles about asylum seekers who were being deported in Israel. And he was very upset about this. So, for me to heal from this horrific situation of his death, I decided to go to Kensington High School, which is in one of the worst neighborhoods, if not the worst neighborhood in Philadelphia. Many of these kids are so poor. It's gut wrenching to see the lives they have. And I decided to go in there and give them the skill sets to become empowered to change their own lives. But I approached different organizations to help these kids. So I went to HIAS, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, and I got attorneys who could help them change their refugee status and go with them to court.
Mm.
I met on a bus one day, which is an amazing story, the director of Children's Hospital Refugee Clinic.
Oh my
And
God.
she told me she would come on board, come into the classrooms, teach them about healthy habits, eating, not to use technology too much. She was phenomenal, and they came on board pro bono. Then I realized that these kids are not eating healthy foods. So we have an excellent restaurateur in Philadelphia. His name is Mark Vetri, and he has a food truck. And his truck comes to schools and teaches kids how to eat healthy. And they show them how to prepare healthy meals. One
Oh,
day, I was at the Philly Pops, and I met the woman who was running the Pops at the time, and I told her what I was doing, and she said, "Do you think your kids would like to come to the Christmas show at the Philly Pops that brings in people from the cast of Hamilton? I mean, amazing programs." I said, "Uh-huh."
Yeah.
100 tickets for free. These kids don't ever leave their neighborhood.
Of course
But
not.
I wanted them to see that with hard work and good values, people will support them. So I called it Dan's Champions as part of Champions of Caring. And I feel that a great joy in my heart that I could do something in his memory for immigrants, because I was that immigrant at one point, and these young people are suffering. And I think my vet message to your viewers is do something that excites you, that interests you. Put people around you who care, who come with good skill sets that can empower you. It doesn't have to be a huge project. Start small, but dream in Technicolor.
How utterly rich. I'm just, I'm attempting to take it all in, and the magnitude of it is amazing. For our viewers, Barbara speaks 5 languages. So she can go into a room and pretty much converse with anyone. And I think the language of your eyes and the love in your eyes, Barbara, is also a communicator for sure.
Right. But do you know why I speak those languages?
Tell
Because
me.
my parents did not speak, my parents spoke 5 languages in one sentence.
Oh,
Meaning, if we wanted to understand what they were talking about, we had to learn the languages.
oh,
Now, that doesn't mean I'm fluent in all of those, but it was a survival skill. And
oh my.
it has helped me. I've been lost in Vietnam, and believe it or not, I use Yiddish, and someone helped me. I've had the funniest stories how I fall into a language and go, all right, let me try it in German. Let me try it in Polish. Let me try it in Hebrew.
And then something clicks.
And something clicks and it bails me out of an untenable situation.
Oh, that's adorable. Oh, that's adorable. This whole life work, Barbara, in combating indifference among, especially among youth, they can get caught up in their technology and their electronics and become indifferent. And your passion for bringing them into life and then, having them step beyond their surrounds. And what a gift, especially those tickets. My gosh, those kids must have just been wide-eyed. So I can't even imagine the impact. I don't know as you will probably ever understand the impact of it. There was a quote I read someplace, and then I immediately switched it to compounding. It was talking about you're having such a huge ripple effect. I think that's what it was. And I was just like, yeah, she's compounding this type of learning and this type of experiential teaching of what's important. You got your bachelor's degree in psychology, that has come in real handy, and education from Hunter College in New York City, and your master's in education from North Adams State College in Massachusetts. You've also been inducted into the Hunter College Hall of Fame, well deserved for sure, and have received honors from numerous civic and education organizations. I read here a great quote: your work is rooted in the belief that anyone, regardless of age or background, can make a meaningful difference. And isn't that so powerful that one voice, especially in times that we're sitting in, our voices matter. And so this whole dedication of your life to empowering others to live their legacy, which brings me to your book, which I have on Kindle right
There
here.
it is. There
Uh,
it is. I'm showing it to you.
Yes, living your legacy now, and you've got the hard copy. This is an amazing book. Everyone can get it on Amazon. 10
Yes.
Simple Steps to Find Your Passion and Change the World. You, of course, acknowledge a whole bunch of people that were instrumental in your writing this. And I want you to give us a little high level of these, a few of the 10 simple steps, because your brilliance and your wisdom is unparalleled, and I commend you.
Well, I have to tell you about this book. I wrote this book when my parents were dying and my husband, and I was writing it in yellow legal pads in hospitals. And it was my catharsis, to be able to do this
Yeah,
and to somehow feel that life can go on and that there's hope,
yeah,
to really find purpose and meaning and looking at what can you do to identify an authentic need. I mean, I think the key to success is do something you really care about. Don't
that's
come up with any idea and you go, well, I don't really care about that. But like for me, working with inner city kids was really, really important. I did my student teaching in the Bronx,
did you? Oh my gosh.
and it was a scary time.
I bet it was.
We used
Yeah,
to hold hands, and you see this necklace I'm wearing, you weren't allowed to wear necklaces
because
because
they would
someone
choke.
you could get choked. It was not a good time, but my heart always went out to these young people, and I wanted to make their world a better place. And I can share a story. My ex-husband was a General Electric executive, and we moved every few years. And when we moved to Pittsfield, Massachusetts, I figured out something that changed my life forever. I was working with Title I students. These
Yes.
are kids who fail miserably in math, and a lot of them get in trouble with the law. And I wanted to create something that would add meaning and purpose to their lives. So I approached the senior center and I asked if I could bring in some of these young people and if they could have a senior from the center be their partner and their buddy. I
Wow.
then approached General Electric to see if I could bring these kids, because GE was the major employer in Pittsfield. If
Yeah.
these kids could come, because that's where they would get a job. If they could see an entry level job, what the
Yeah.
requirements would be.
Yeah.
And the combination of these two events, meeting with the seniors, going to GE and learning about the culture of that organization. These kids were not in trouble with the law. They were doing so much better. It really changed their lives and they got hope. And, that's why whoever's listening, this intergenerational impact is so rich. And then you find a cause that you really care about. And then you have to think about what's my mission statement? What do I care about? And I use the example in the book of why I started Champions of Caring. That, my mission was to celebrate young people and get them engaged in service. I had to then teach them the skill sets, how they could do that kind of service and really look at who do you need to partner with? What kind of financial help do you need? How do you write your proposals and what your goals and objectives are? So you have to really think about this. And in this book, I lay it all out. And I'm really thrilled that for the last 10 years or so, Drexel University has been using my book in the business school and in the School of Social Entrepreneurship. And I love this, Deborah. I
Oh,
come
man.
in and the students in the MBA program or undergraduate program have to tell me how they are now living their legacy using my book as the textbook. And I wrote this really as an ethical will for my family. I thought that's what I was writing the book for. And to think that now, these college kids are using this at Penn State, at Temple, at Drexel, it just warms my heart
Oh,
that it
yeah.
be put to such good use and that they then have to write to me and share the kinds of projects they're involved with. And I do most of it on Zoom now since COVID, but they ask me questions and some of them have joined the project and are helping me, particularly with the social media uh,
Yeah.
aspects. And I just am so excited that this book, which I thought was going to be just for my own family, frankly, and close friends, is now being used at these college campuses.
Oh, that is amazing. I I'm so tickled for the students to be able to interface with you because I'm an author and it's always so rich when I hear feedback from people from about a particular phrase or a thought and this chapter was very meaningful. I can't even imagine you must be bursting with joy to get this type of feedback. I just want to read a little tiny bit from the beginning of your book live your legacy. What do you mean by a legacy? Most often, a legacy is described as something we leave behind, usually in terms of money or build or funding something such as a building and a wing and a hospital in a person's memory. But the meaning of living your legacy, you say, your humanity is so much more broad. I believe that a legacy is a gift to the future and a gift to the present. I couldn't agree more. It is the core of who you are, what you stand for. And let me just get this page. So sorry, what you stand for. Oh, okay. There's my computer doing, okay, here we go. Sorry. Well, the whole aspect is not just leaving a legacy, building a legacy, living your legacy, and then, of course, leaving your legacy. I found that completely rich. And this is, experienced right now with these students realizing and coming to grips with some serious questions in life. And this is when we'd love for college kids to be thinking along these lines, because we need desperately this reaching across the socioeconomic lines. We need these venues like Drexel has provided you for conversation and for caring and being compassionate with each other. You've been such a bridge builder, Barbara. I commend you. This is
Thank you,
such
honey.
rich work you've done.
And I can tell you at Temple, we started an intergenerational class on positive aging. And I want to tell your viewers the age range. Are you
Oh,
ready?
yeah, yeah,
18 to 95. It's on Zoom because COVID started. And it is so rich. It is so wonderful because the students and even the seniors, these are not our grandchildren. It's a totally different relationship than what we have with our grandchildren. The professor, Dr. Tanya Giovanetti from their psych department, teaches 1 day a week. And then on the second day of the classes in a week, some of my colleagues and I teach. And guess what? The students teach. And we bonded so much that the students said 5 years ago, we don't want to lose you. What can we do now? So we came up with this idea of an intergenerational cafe where students and seniors, like, the age range is from 45 to 95, and each student gets a partner, and we give them suggested things to talk about. What are my goals in life? What do I care about? If I had to address a social justice issue. And we have a woman, my dear friend Thelma Reese, who's 92. She has been talking to Ben Sachs, one of her partner, for 4 years, once a week. This relationship is so beautiful. And, it just enriches everyone's life.
Of course it does.
And so we're doing a lot of these intergenerational cafes now. And I say to your listeners, if you can get involved in this, it's really wonderful. On the third Thursday of every month from 7 to 8, I have partnered with an organization called Mom and Champions of Caring. Meeting of the Minds is what Mom said.
Oh, I love
We
that.
get together and we have people from different countries, kids, seniors, and we talk. And if your audience is interested, they can write to me at barbara@championsofcaring.org,
Okay.
because we'd love to include you. These conversations, again, are so rich because you get the perspectives, especially now when I hear young people who are 19 years old saying to someone like myself who's 77, these are terrible times, Barb. Did you ever live through times like these? These times are scaring me. And to have a platform and a safe space to talk to people of different generations and get their knowledge, I think people are hungering for these kinds of intergenerational connections.
I think so too.
So I really encourage your listeners to join us on the third Thursday of the month, because we need each other more than ever. And I think we should not look at what divides us, but look at what unites us.
There you go. There
Speak
you go.
with an open heart and an open mind and be willing to learn. All generations can learn from each other.
Yeah.
We want to flip that script on ageism because, Deborah, ageism goes both ways. You're too old, you're too young, you're too this, you're too that.
Yeah.
And that's lethal in a society. Because if we can be collaborative and respectful, so much good can come out of it.
Mm, mm, mm. Well, there's no question. It's so curious, Barbara, that your trajectory. You went to Hunter, then you got your master's in Massachusetts, and then you began as a teacher, and then you later progressed to being this director of the executive search firm, which you alluded to in passing earlier, specializing in recruiting physicians and healthcare executives nationally. And then, you're shifting into this not-for-profit and this intergenerational work that has been absolutely amazing. So this third Thursday, is it 7 to 8 Eastern?
Yes, Eastern time.
Okay, so how would we would just email you for is it a Zoom link or how
It's a
would we?
Zoom link. It's a Zoom link.
Okay. If you can give that to us, we can put that in the show notes.
Okay, that
If
would be
if,
great.
if we would be able to be invited to be little
Yeah,
flies
that
on
would
the
be
wall.
great. You know what? And I'll share something else. When I was growing up, like my ex-husband worked for GE, and the
Yes.
thought in the 60s was that's where you'll retire,
Yeah.
right? You work for a company, and then at the
Get
end,
the watch.
I get the watch, the gold pen, and that's fine. I'm not casting aspersions on that. But I never realized that I had six careers. That because I was a GE wife, I moved every few years. And there always was not a job in education or a field that I had had before. So I sold Haagen-Dazs ice cream and Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I mean, I've done whatever I could get because I need to stay active. And I was still always very active, in terms of running events for the community, like
Right.
Nancy Reagan, when she said the Just Say No project,
Oh,
say no to drugs. I chaired that in Syracuse, New York when we were living. But I realized that I took my skill sets from every job to the next job, and everything prepared me for what was coming next. So I'm not afraid of changing careers. I'll tell you a funny story about the film. For my 73rd birthday, I got a Zoom invite, and a lot of the Champions of Caring kids who are now 30 and 40 were on the call.
on the
They
call.
said, "Hey, Barb, the world is in terrible shape. Let's do something about it." And then they started with, "Well, you know how you wrote your book, Live Your Legacy Now. What about champions living their legacy?" I said, "I like that." Another kid goes, "No, no, no, I have a better idea. Why don't we do a documentary?" And I said, "A documentary? Are you kidding me? I don't know how to do a documentary." I said, "No, no, no, no. This is insane." They said, "Barbara, you didn't know how to do Champions of Caring. You didn't know how to sell Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Why can't we do a doc?" I said, "No, I cannot do a documentary. I have to know my strengths and my weaknesses and be realistic. I do not know how to do this." Deborah, I get off the call. I can't sleep. This is now in my head. And so for 1 year, I'm calling everyone I know at Hunter College, here, there. Do you know a filmmaker? Do you know a documentarian? And people are saying to me, "You're sounding ridiculous already. Are you really going to do this?" I said, "I want to, but I need the filmmaker." So one day I'm giving a speech, and as I get off the stage, a woman said, and I said in the speech, "I'm looking for a filmmaker." And I tell the story of Champions of Caring. She says, "I have your filmmaker. This is an Emmy Award winning filmmaker who's very empathetic, very kind. His name is Henry Nevis, and I want you to meet him." I met him. He got it right away. And the rest is history, as they say. But initially, I wasn't going to do this. I thought, enough is enough, Barb. You're going to make a fool out of yourself. This is crazy. I have to tell you, of all the things that I've done, having the privilege of seeing these young people in their 30s and 40s, how they're teaching these values to their children, what they're doing in their communities is just so heartwarming. And I'm so grateful we're doing this, and I can't wait for your audience to see it. It's called The Coral Ring Legacy, as I mentioned. And if they want to go on our Instagram, championsofcaring.org, there are reels about these young people, and I'm in some of the reels as well, sharing the story. But if you will it, it is not a dream. If you surround yourself with great people, if you have energy, passion, and vision, and you know your strengths and your limitations, miracles can happen.
And you collaborate as so beautifully as you have done your entire life. and that is so attractive. You're attracting the kind of energies and the talent, and you're you know starting the primer for these kids and young people to express themselves, and then to meet people that are different from them, and then to follow their dreams. I am just so impressed with your ability to be the scout, right, Barbara? You've gone up ahead, and then you kind of turn around. As my dear late friend Dr. Susan Jeffers says, the scout is like your intuition that has gone ahead and turns around and says, "You guys, this, that, and the other thing." And you've gone ahead in life and said, "Yeah, we can do this." And so when your students said, "Let's make a documentary," it's kind of like turnabout is fair play. Like, all right, you've engendered a whole bunch of opportunity and possibility for them, and they're coming back to you and say, "Barb, let's do this documentary." I'm so glad that you slept on it and you agreed to it. I am looking forward to the Carl Ring legacy. This is going to be completely profound. I can just feel it. The description, some of it is the alchemy of transforming generational wounds into intergenerational bridges of healing. That, my friend, is a completely resonant statement for me. I am so grateful that you are here with us, sharing yourself as you've done your whole life, and sharing it with these the next generations. And that is our hope, right? That is our hope for sure.
Yeah. And our responsibility, and I think a moral imperative. Given what's going on in the world, if you don't like something, do something about it. Don't just sit back silent and indifferent, because indifference allows horrible things to happen in a society. And I learned this from my parents, from what they went through, and never again do I want anyone to be subjected to what they went through and what's happening in different parts of the world right now. And we, the people, have the power. And I hope your listeners get that. We can, we vote, we can create change, we can do what we have to do, but surround yourself with like-minded people who care and want to make that difference. So I challenge everyone listening to me today, find something you care about. Get people involved with you. You do younger and older groups of people, put them together and address something. It doesn't have to be huge. Start small, but dream in Technicolor. And you'll be amazed at what can come out of it.
That's a mic drop right there. I'm not saying another thing because it would detract. Absolutely brilliant, Barb. We are so grateful. I am particularly happy to have met you, overjoyed at getting to know you a little bit, and we'll dig deeper. I haven't read all of your book yet, and yet I will. And boy, I'm going to mark my calendar to check out The Coral Ring Legacy. We are more than grateful. Tell us, as the listeners, we'll put your social media notes in the show notes. But aside from that, where would you best prefer us to visit you and like your stuff? YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, what's your
All
preference?
of the above.
All
Instagram, all of the above. I've been trained by college students. All of the above. Like us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, like us on LinkedIn. Um, but join us. Join us. Do the work and then write to me, Barbara at championsofcaring.org. Tell me what you're doing. If today resonated at all with you and you want to do something, reach out. Tell us what you're doing. Come to our Mom Champions of Caring meetings on the third Thursday of the month from 7 to 8. We need to come together to give each other hope and strength and share skill sets, because this is our world. And I feel we have the power to create a world we're proud of. If you have children, for your children, your grandchildren, for future generations. Um, today my grandson Jake called me. He's getting a doctorate in data science in San Diego, and he said to me, "Bubby," he calls me Bubby, "knock 'em dead today." And I said, "Thanks, Jake. I'll do my best."
Well, you did. You delivered a knock-up punch, because now we're all sitting a little higher and casting our vision a little more into the future, with the notion that it's our next chapter to create and to form, and we're using our voice in order to make our opposition to many of the vile things that are happening known. And then it's, of course, translating into our vote in order to correct some of the ills in our world. And you have been such a champion along that line in every sense of the word. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your parents, for their surviving. And I'm grateful to have you here on the We Can Do It Women show. Thank you so very much.
It was a pleasure. And we women can absolutely do it. No doubt about it. Women power. We'll take
I
the good men too, but women, oh my God, we're amazing.
We are, we are. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. And remember, our entire audience, I see you. I value you. And your greatest chapter is just beginning. If today's episode sparked something in you, I invite you to check out our Wealth and Wellness Luxury Retreat in the south of France. Why? Because we are going to seed various aspects of each of our missions, if you will, because they extend beyond ourselves. And I'm also going to teach very specific step by step as to how you can make your own intentional wealth. I did it 42 years for 34 clients. I can do it for you in a week in France. How luxurious is that? And so we're winding down. Next week, we're going to have the final phone calls with the people that are interested. Pop over to wecandoitwomen.com/retreats. We are about creating our own wealth, which is a tool for us to go ahead and put our money down on funding a documentary, to put our money down on renting space where people can gather and do whatever it is that lights us up, because this is not a dress rehearsal. No, it's not. So I invite you to be completely resonant and intentional with your lives, with your mission, and certainly with your money. Until next time, this is Debra Morrison reminding you it's never too late to shine. And pay attention to your money and it will surely pay you back. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.